Oh, hello. Hi, Farmington River kids. Welcome to our third edition of A Day in the Life of Mr. Keller, except this time it's A Day in the Colonial Life of Mr. Keller. So welcome to April 1st, 1776. Today we're talking about quills and letter writing, and some wax sealing too. So first, a quill. During the 1700s, in the colonial times, this was the pen of the day. It is a hollow feather. This particular one is a turkey feather, but you could use goose or crow. Now it's hollow, and that holds on to the ink that you dip, and it holds on to it into the tube, and it comes out to a point. Now it's quite an art form, sharpening this to the exact specifications to write, but this is how you do it. Now, the reason this just all doesn't pour out is a scientific term called capillary action. It's very much like when you take a straw and you put it into a drink of soda or something, and you put your finger on the top of the straw and pull it out, and the soda stays in the straw. This capillary action happens with a quill too. Now, as I'm writing, you'll notice that I'm writing right-handed, and as I'm writing along with this quill, my hand is moving away from the ink. Now, because that I'm doing this in a right-handed version, it makes it so that I don't smudge the ink. Now, if I was left-handed, this would be very difficult, for I'd be writing and putting my hand over the ink. Left-handed people were discouraged. Children were even asked to sit on their left hand, as they forced themselves how to use the right hand. Not very fair to a colonial child. Colonial children were also writing in cursive first in their kindergarten years, because with a quill, it is actually harder to lift up and down your quill between letters. Cursive allows you to connect letters together and go smoothly along with your ink. So cursive works much better with colonial writing. One of my favorite things that Washington would do with his letters, Thomas Jefferson and the other signers of the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, they'd often do a flourish after their name. So if you come closer, you can kind of see here, a flourish is kind of a bit of artwork after your name, a back and forth stroke just for fancy, to show off your signature. And I thought that's kind of neat when they did that back then. So today I'm using more of a modern ink, but you could use horse chestnuts. You can use all types of things to make this ink in colonial times. Plants. But right now I'm using more of a modern ink. But it comes time that you want to mail your letter off. Now, one of the first things I do is to take a little sand shaker and shake some very fine sand over this letter, and that would soak up bits of ink. So when I folded this up, it wouldn't smudge the ink. I would then blow the sand off of it. Now, when I fold this letter up, remember, there was no real envelope to put it in. There were not envelopes that had the glue that we have today that you would let. So when you are sealing this letter up, you are actually going to produce its own envelope. Traditionally, when you fold a letter, the first thing you open up is the top part of the letter, and you get to see who is writing to you. So I'm going to crease this very well. I'm also going to fold in the sides so that someone's not going to be able to peek in and see my letter, see anything private, or maybe in Washington's case, or his generals, to see commands to his other corporals and sergeants. I'm going to crease this very well. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to seal it with sealing wax. I have a square of it here. Now, some of your guardians and parents might know the song Puff the Magic Dragon, and the song talks about loving sealing wax in that. And that's what this is. It seals the letter closed. So what I'm going to do is, it's kind of a candle itself. This one actually has a wick in the center of it. I'm going to light it off my 18th century lantern here. And then I'm going to hold it down. Can you see? I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to drip the sealing wax slowly as it heats up on the two halves. Now you notice I'm trying to get it right on the line. It has a a wonderful smell to its sealing wax. It isn't like a regular candle. It has its own distinct smell. Now, you want to make sure that when you send a letter or a note to someone that no one's looked at it. And since we don't have envelopes to seal up, we are going to do this wax seal. Now, after this dries, the only way to open this letter up is actually to break open that wax seal. So if you are given a letter where a wax seal is broken, you know that someone's already been looking at that or peeking at the letter. So as I'm doing this, I'm making my wax a little bit, about the size of a penny, a little smaller. Oops. And then I'm going to blow out that, and I got a little wax on me. If I let that dry, it'll come right off. These are the stamps. This stamp here is a bald eagle, our nation's symbol, and this stamp here is a cannon. I'm going to go with the cannon stamp. So I need to wait 2 or 3 seconds here. I'm letting it dry a little bit, but just so it's kind of mushy and tacky. So here we go. When I actually do this, I'm going to roll it back and forth, and with a little luck, not only will this letter be sealed, but it will have an impression on it. Now, Washington had his own special seals. Everybody did. I might have a letter K for Mr. Keller, but yep, everybody would have one. Now, I'm holding it a few more seconds as it dries. Sometimes I might even blow on it. Maybe while I'm waiting for it to dry completely, I can have a spot of tea. And here we have a No Stamp Act teapot. Now, my 5th graders already will know what this means. This is actually protesting against the taxes, these terrible taxes placed on our colonies by King George III of England. And this teapot is actually a protest pot saying no Stamp Act or no taxes. So, as is customary in England, I'm going to have a spot of tea. We wait a little bit. And here's our sealed letter to General Washington. Hopefully, he will provide those chicken wings I asked for. And thank you for joining us today at our 3rd installment of The Life of Mr. Keller in Colonial Times. Now, please try to do your best every day, as Benjamin Franklin would say, and maybe you could do something for your parents and guardians. You could say, you know, I know you're working really hard. What can I do for you today to give you a hand? So until the next installment, kids, to your health.